going through the last couple of days and saying to yourself, I'm tired of seeing all the clips on Twitter. I'm tired of seeing all the clips on YouTube. I'm tired of seeing all the things that are going on now that Lane Kiffin is the head coach at LSU. And you say to yourself, you know the one thing that no one is saying about Lane Kiffin? You know, everything that's going on in the national media, all the talking pundits, all of the chatter that is out there now that he is the head coach of LSU. You know, I hear that, oh, he left his team and he hasn't changed and all of these things about Lane Kiffin and him not being at Ole Miss anymore, about being at LSU. You know the one thing that I've noticed? You know the one thing that it was like a light bulb that went off in my head. You know the one thing that nobody's talking about? Everybody wants to talk about staff, Frank, Blake Baker, all of those things. They want to talk about Ole Miss and Keith Carter and Ole Miss constantly every single day talking about Lane Kiffin. You're about to go to a playoff game and you're still talking about Lane Kiffin day in and day out. Now, LSU should because they have a brand new head coach. But day after day after day, you're not talking about your new head coach. You're talking about the old one. But like a light bulb, you know when it went off in my mind today? What went off in my mind was, why isn't anyone talking about what Lane Kiffin's going to do at LSU on the field? If you notice, it's always about, oh, man, he hasn't changed. If he does it to us, he'll do it to you. They talk about it, oh, I'm sure the NFL in a couple of years are going to be coming and calling for Lane Kiffin, and he's going to leave LSU high and dry like he did Ole Miss. Maybe that's true. They talk about every single little detail. Oh, he forgot the dog, even though it seems like today that he's going to bring Juice Kiffin, and we have a new addition in Baton Rouge, that being the beautiful dog that calls himself Juice Kiffin. But yet nobody, any day, anytime over the last week, or really does it say since Sunday, everyone wants to keep talking about, oh, he's a horrible person. He's a horrible person. What about Ole Miss? Look what's going on here. They're letting Charlie Weiss come back because he acted like an adult. Well, he got on the plane with Lane Kiffin, then immediately signed a deal with LSU. But you're letting him coach and not Lane Kiffin. That's neither here nor there. Why isn't anybody talking about what Lane Kiffin's going to do on the field? The place where it actually matters. You know, our good friends over at FanDuel did, though. Our partners this season, during the football season, you know, they did. They said next year they already got a line that you can go and bet on, hypothetically speaking. When LSU goes into Oxford next year, what's the over-under? What is the point spread? By the way, it's 1.5 LSU's favor. Pretty much a little bit of a pick 'em. But the bottom line remains is that every time that I keep seeing people talk about Lane Kiffin every single second of every single day, is that the biggest superstar right now in college football, they want to paint him as the villain. Now, we've talked about embracing the villain role. I'm going to do it. Okay. Sounds good. We'll be the villain. Why aren't you talking about what he's going to do on the field? You know, I hear the thought process of, and I'm flabbergasted. Everyone's like, yeah, he's going to win big there. He's going to do a lot of really good things at LSU, but why do you have to talk and put the but in there anyway? Why can't you say, well, you know what? And what no one's doing right now, because they don't know. Why, when you were talking about Lane Kiffin today, did you not talk about him closing Richard Anderson? Why didn't you talk about him holding off all the negativity on other teams going after Lamar Brown today? And yes, he did not sign, and I think that they're going to trend in the right direction there. Why did they not talk about him holding on to the class and bringing and cutting some guys loose, bringing in and cutting some other guys loose that he thinks that could shape for his class? Why didn't you want to talk about that? Because positivity on him doesn't sell. Positivity on the villain doesn't sell. Positivity on what LSU could be under him doesn't sell right now because the algorithm on social media is set. Lane Kiffin villain, LSU bad guy, Lane Kiffin bad guy, and none of you want to talk about on the field. You don't want to talk about in the last 6 years that there's one guy on the top of that list who's number one in the SEC in rushing in the last 6 years, that being Lane Kiffin. A Lane Kiffin offense is number one in the SEC in rushing the last 6 years. Why don't we want to talk about that? What are your thoughts and sentiments going to be when LSU goes into the portal and spends money in the portal to go get players for a guy who's coming off of 11-1 team? You know, we hear all of these things. We see all of these things. We see it all on social media all the live long day. No one has talked about him leading a team to 11-1 in the SEC at Ole Miss. He left his team. He left them high and dry. He's a liar. Lane Kiffin lied about what happened at Ole Miss. Color me shocked that a coach lied. Color me shocked that Keith Carter, the AD at Ole Miss, is lying. Now, I'm glad that a lot of these things are coming out. Ole Miss said they knew 2 weeks ago. Did you? Because if you knew it 2 weeks ago, then you completely mismanaged the situation. And you also confirmed our story last night that 2 Wednesdays ago, you were in the great state of Louisiana talking to John Summerall because you knew that Lane Kiffin had gone. You knew that he wasn't going to be there. So you went after John Summerall. But if you knew Lane Kiffin was leaving and you knew that you were going to get to the playoff game and you knew all of these things, why did you keep letting him coach? Oh, because you needed the wins versus Florida. You needed the win versus Mississippi State to get into the playoff. So you utilized him when you needed to because you know that he's the best in-game play caller in the country. You know it, and you don't want to admit it. See, what they don't want to talk about, guys, is and something that you should prepare yourself for, because this is the best play caller in all of college football when it comes to calling plays on the offensive side. He is going to get every single ounce out of the players that he will have. He's going to get every single ounce out of their ability offensively to be the best that they can be. He's literally done it everywhere. He's done it at USC twice. He's done it at Tennessee. He's done it at Alabama. He's done it at FAU. He's done it at Ole Miss. So the one time that I guess he's going to miss now is going to be LSU. They don't want to talk about a team that went 11-1 and their only losses to the number 3 team in the country on the road, I might add. On the road. They don't want to talk about him scoring 35 straight points on what might be the SEC champion of this year, the Georgia Bulldogs, with a less talented roster. What happens when that roster pool and that player pool becomes a little bit more even for Lane Kiffin? Why don't you want to talk about that? I know why you don't want to, because you want to paint him the villain. I just don't understand leaving a playoff team. You know, like I heard some national media members today saying, oh, tough shit, you should have stayed. Brother, 2 years ago, you left a local business to go to the worldwide leader in sports. The other one left a local place to go to Barstool. No, not T-Bob. So wait a minute. Why are you sitting here being hypocritical? But when we actually put our feet, we put our cleats in grass, nobody's talking about it. Because I think you're going to go out there and dominate the portal. At least I hope that you do. I hope that you go out there and dominate the portal. Is what LSU is saying about the NIL and the $25 million. Go spend it. Go get elite players to be here. You probably had to do that with this current high school class, because the truth of the matter is you can't go out there and keep saying during a coaching carousel, hey, man, we gave Lane Kiffin the most money of all the teams that were wanting his services for him to go get the most elite roster in the country to go and win a national title, and think that players weren't going to renegotiate with you. But I find it interesting that one of those players who might have had second thoughts, well, he stated today that he is signing with LSU. And I believe him. Everybody's freaking out. I've been to many of recruiting days. Well, Blake, LSU didn't announce that he signed. I think you should be patient there. But they don't talk about is Richard Anderson admitting today that he went to Baton Rouge last night to meet with Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin closed him. And I kept it real with him, and he kept it real with me. And I said, I'm all right, sounds good. I'm going to LSU. He sold me. You know, last night we talked about to Lamar Brown, Deuce Geralds, Richard Anderson, to those guys, you got to sell your future plan. Money's going to be money, and LSU's going to get it. Money will be money. But the bottom line remains, you got to go sell your vision. Because, guys, LSU is going to match what everyone else in the country is going to match. Can't say that you're going to spend all of this money in the portal, all of this money in recruiting, and then not do it now. Can't say that. It seems like the booster base, and it seems like that the big boosters are, well, they're rallying behind Lane Kiffin to go and get an elite roster. Everyone seems aligned now. None of those kids decommitted. So you have the number one, technically number two, but number one player along the interior of the defensive line telling you today, yeah, I met with Lane Kiffin and he closed me. You know, you asked for Brian Kelly to do something similar. You know, you asked for Brian Kelly to be more involved in recruiting, and within 48 hours, you got Lamar Brown in the building with Lane Kiffin, and you got Richard Anderson signing with all of the chaos that surrounded you. We're going to talk about this signing class today. Yes, you got to land Lamar Brown, the number one player in the country. Yes, you got to get him signed. Same that I believe with Deuce Geralds. Now that you're here, you're going to have to fend off teams like Georgia Tech, I believe is what it is. You're going to have to fend them off. But if you do that, then you go in the portal, you start feeling a lot better about your class and the direction that you're going with a coach who's the best play caller in the country, and now might have started to reduce that gap with Georgia. You know, the question I had, and I've had for a while now, that all of this talk going about Lane Kiffin. And I said to myself that I am not going to talk about Lane Kiffin until the day comes that he is LSU's coach, because I didn't want to prep all of you for him being it when he wouldn't be. But remember just a second ago when I was talking about in the beginning of all of this, why isn't anyone talking about things on the field? I think about the game this year with Ole Miss versus Georgia, and I ask myself the simple question, what if that gap was closer? What if the talent gap was closer on a year-in, year-out basis for Ole Miss? You can say, well, Blake, they went 9-3 last year. Yeah, well, they didn't have a running game because they had to spend all of their money on defense to have any form of a chance of having a good defense. But what happens when you're able to recruit from within and you're not completely always reliable in the portal? Nobody wants to talk about on the field. It's only about, and Paul Feinbaum led his show off with it today. People are leading off their shows with Lane Kiffin, the villain. And yet, you've known this for about a week now, that Lane Kiffin was going to be the guy. I just went on a monologue with dial-up internet. Stand by. Always some stuff. I thought I was spitting bars there, man. I thought I was spitting bars. But yet nobody wants to talk about, though, to get back to it, now that we're kind of, seems like we're fine now. Everybody thumbs up. We're fine in the chat now. Everyone wants to talk about Lane Kiffin, the villain. Nobody's wanting to talk about. No, I was watching the basketball game, so at the corner of my eye. Nobody wants to talk about what Lane Kiffin is going to do at LSU on the field. You can keep painting him the villain. You can keep saying it over and over again, day after day after day. Lane Kiffin this, Lane Kiffin that. Why aren't you talking about him being 11-1? Why aren't you talking about him closing the number one defensive tackle in the country? Why aren't you talking about the money that LSU is going to spend in the portal? Why aren't you talking about the gap that he closed with Georgia today that he didn't have at Ole Miss? Because that guy this year with a D2 quarterback scored 35 straight points on Georgia, and there was nothing that they could do about it. They might be the SEC champion. So all of these things that keep coming up on a daily basis, all of these things that keep coming up day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. The only question that I'm going to start asking myself now, guys, this is over with. They can keep talking about it. They can keep talking about him. But you signed Richard Anderson. You got to close on Lamar Brown. You got to close on Deuce Geralds. There are some other things that you got to do here. Today was a great day for you and where you maintained. But yet nobody wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about on the field. Because let me tell you what I see. What I see in all of this, what I see in all of it, well, it's easy for me. The best play caller in the country on the offensive side of the ball got a little bit better today. He got a little bit better. And if he can develop from within, if he can keep developing from within, if he can keep stacking classes and remedy things through the portal, guys, the dude who had a Division II quarterback lead him to 11-1, what now? What now? It's going to be very interesting. Yeah, the internet's some bullshit around here. Now look at it. It's fine now. I was spitting bars. I was flat out spitting bars here. I've been practicing that open monologue for God knows how long. For God knows how long. I've been working on that all day. And yet here we are, and we ain't got the internet. I thought I was bar spitting, man. That's just a shame. That is a flat out shame. That you can spit straight bars at somebody, and then all of a sudden, you sit there and your internet looks like shit. Couldn't be us. Couldn't be us, right? Anyway, let's move on here. Nevertheless, we're live. Everyone do us a favor by hitting like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Every AYS show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Download the FD Sportsbook app today. Use your mobile device to join. When you do, you can go over there and place all your bets on parlays, futures, all of those bets. We greatly appreciate y'all doing that. We also am glad to be saying that, well, FanDuel has extended throughout the football season. So we are excited to be partnered and powered by our good friends over at FanDuel. We greatly appreciate them being here with us. All right. We got some super chats in here. We got some gifts in here for membership-only content. I will get to them in a little bit. When we come out of the break, we're going to talk about this signing class. Richard Anderson, Lamar Brown, Deuce Geralds. We'll get to that. Chase Matthews. Do you take a run at Calvin Russell? Do you take a run at Chris Henry Jr.? We will get to all of that when we come back. Do us a favor, though. Hit the like and share. Subscribe down below. We're almost to 15,000 subs. Just do us a favor if you haven't done so already. Hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back. We'll be back in just after this break. Stay with us.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man. He's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler. He'll shoot you straight.
Hey, guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick.
We're back.
All right. We have some breaking news here that we got to get to. Football Scoop is reporting that LSU GM Austin Thomas and Lane Kiffin and the LSU Tigers are parting ways. I think that was pretty much the inevitable. There has been a lot of speculation about if Austin Thomas potentially would take Verge Osbury's old role. But this felt very inevitable, okay? When Lane Kiffin was hired as LSU's head coach, the one person that got on the plane with him was his general manager in Billy Glasscock. Well, Austin Thomas is already your general manager. The question I think a lot of people had in reference to Austin Thomas was, hey, you worked for Lane before. You came to LSU. There should be a good connection there. Will Lane retain Austin Thomas moving forward? Now, per Football Scoop, Austin Thomas is not going to be retained. I had asked around when I was at the introductory press conference, and it seemed that they were going to be moving on. I think Austin Thomas is one of the better GMs in the country. I think that he will crush it wherever he lands. If he is an AD somewhere, I'm sure that as a general manager, he can land in the SEC somewhere. I think he's really good and did a really good job at raising money to go get some really good players. Guys, he did a really good job with A.J. Hawsey. Did a really good job with Bernard Gooden. Did a really good job with a lot of pieces. Mansour Delane. Did a really good job at bringing in a lot of pieces. I do think that on the opposite side of that, he missed on some of these. Barion Brown. I just think a lot of offensive pieces he missed on. With all of that being said, if this report, and I'm going to say it like this, if this report, which I deem it to be pretty accurate, Football Scoop is really good at what they do. It seems as if they're parting ways. look, I like Austin. I think Austin's a really good dude. I've met him, talked to him a lot over this time being back at LSU. You know, when we were at fall camp and we were leaving practice, talked to Austin. He was asking some of my thoughts. I thought was always a really good person and always took the time of day to talk to me. And I appreciate him for that. You know, like I remember when we were at camp and we were leaving and we probably had about 10, 15-minute conversation about what we saw on the field. And I thought the defense was going to be really good, and that's the conversation that we had. But again, per Football Scoop, Austin Thomas and LSU are going to be parting ways here. I think he's going to land on his feet somewhere. I think he's going to do a really, really good job. But look, man, you brought in Billy Glasscock. And loyalty, I'm assuming, in that situation is a big deal. And I think it means a lot to Lane to have that. You know, look, his contract is tied to Verge Alsbury, which leads me to believe that the connection that Verge had with Saban, the connection that Verge had in this entire situation, I mean, it's a big deal for him. It's a very, very big deal for him. It is very unfortunate. I like Austin. You know, I think that he has a role in all of this, and just meaning college football. I don't know what it is. I really, really, really don't know what it is. What I think that it is that when situations like this happen, you know, it is unfortunate. Lane trusts in Billy Glasscock, and quite frankly, you've held on to your class. Quite honestly, you landed Richard Anderson today. So, I mean, the big part in this is, guys, I mean, frankly, we're going to have to give Billy Glasscock a chance here. And I don't know anything about him really, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot about him over the next couple of years, next couple of months, next couple of days really, on how good of a job that he can do. But Lane brought him when he went on the plane and he left Oxford. I think it was only a matter of time when we're just reading the tea leaves on that. Very unfortunate. Very, very, very unfortunate for him. Stand by. God bless it. I do not know what is happening. I'm trying to watch the basketball game, but I've got to turn it off now. We got to turn it off. But I think you can hear me. You just can't see me that well. Is that correct in the chat? Is that correct? Bomb Tech says, AY Sports, we still love the show. I know. But it's unfortunate that we have to keep doing that. So I'll give you an update about what's happening in the studio very quickly. Not that y'all care. They're putting fiber here. Look, we got demolished by Hurricane Ida, and we're still feeling the effects of it. All right, everyone, do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Subscribe down below. Just do us a quick favor. Subscribe right down below. We greatly appreciate it. To all of you that are not subscribed, just do me a favor. Subscribe down below. All right, let's get moving here. So LSU currently per On3 has the number 10 class in the country. They got signings from all of these players. Bryson Martinez, the offensive lineman out of East Ascension. Jabari Mack, the wide receiver out of Destrehan. Corey Barber, who they flipped today, technically from Ole Miss. I know that we talked about him last night. Out of Clay Chalkville, Alabama. Aiden Hall, the safety from Edna Carr, committed today as well and signed today. Very key there. We're going to come back to that in just a moment. But you got a commitment and signing from him. J.C. Anderson, the tight end out of Mount Zion, Illinois. Isaiah Washington, the safety out of Haynesville. Braden Allen, Des Ellis, Ryan Merritt. Haven Finney, which we'll get to in just a minute. Richard Anderson says he's signing. I'm assuming that they have it for sure. So those are the guys right now that have signed. Now, there's a lot of things that we can go through here in the signing class. I'm going to pull out the two kids from Carr for just a moment. So Last night, we talked about that there had been some scuttlebutt and pushback, and there had been a lot of stuff in the tea leaves in reference to what was going to happen to Aiden Hall and Richard Anderson, the two really elite players out of New Orleans that play at Edna Carr. And there was a thought that, well, potentially last night things got really interesting about what was going to happen with their signing. Let's move into last night and let's move into today. Richard Anderson said that he met with Lane Kiffin last night. So let me take you through what I was told and what happened in that situation. Lane Kiffin got on the phone. Billy Glasscock got on the phone and said, hey, listen, if you don't mind, we can't come to you. Can you come to us? And I'm sure they did it the right legal way per NCAA guidelines. And Richard Anderson went to Baton Rouge and met with Lane Kiffin last night. And he said, I kept it real with him, and he kept it real with me. Seems like Blake Baker, your current defensive coordinator that we'll get to in just a moment, also was a part of that process. But this morning, when Aiden Hall and LSU announced that they had gotten his paperwork and he had signed, it really started giving a lot of LSU fans a lot of hope that, man, well, maybe Richard Anderson may do that as well. Gus Bryant, I did it again. Guys, Lane Kiffin closed here. The one thing that I thought was very interesting in reference to Lane Kiffin, and we've gone through this with Brian Kelly, was, hey, man, Brian Kelly can't recruit. Hey, man, Lane Kiffin doesn't recruit. But then he comes in, the first thing he does is he closes. I think that we forget about what head coaches' roles are supposed to be in all of this. Like, if you're not a primetime recruiter, what your role in all of this is. We forget about the USC classes of old. We forget about, hey, man, him bringing in a lot of really elite recruiters and knowing that you got to have the best players to win games. Because the one thing that Lane Kiffin knows more than anything, and he said in his press conference, he's been with Pete Carroll, he's been with he's been with Nick Saban, and he's been on his own. And he's brought in a lot of really good recruiters because there's one thing that's always 1,000% accurate. Great players win games. And today, when everything seemed like maybe things were pointing in an opposite direction and that they might hold off their commitments per them or per Richard Anderson, and we got this from Aiden Hall, they signed. You closed. And I think for once, you got to a place in time where Brian Kelly is that was all the things that you were asking from Brian Kelly. You were asking him to do those level of things. You were asking him to be hands-on. When shit hit the fan, guys, in 48 hours, your head coach was there when he needed to be and closed on the number one defensive tackle in the country, on one of the best safeties in the country, in an area in the state of Louisiana that matters, in a place and time where we are at and have always been. The city of New Orleans is going to produce elite athletes. You won. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say. Well, Blake, it makes me really nervous that Richard Anderson didn't sign and LSU didn't, quote unquote, make it official. Gus, we'll get there if we get there. The kid said he's going to sign, and I'm going to go based off of his words. Just going to go based off of his words today. But it's a big deal that you were able to do that. You know, my question is if you can do that in the city of New Orleans when not knowing the status of Frank Wilson, what can you do moving forward? You know, guys, you can't say that this offense sucks and not look at the guys that built the offense. You can't. You can't. You needed to land on these two, and you did. And the way that I understand what's going on at football ops right now is that the staff, the current staff, they're in one area, and the incoming staff's in another. I don't think clarity was had here. I don't think anybody knows if Frank Wilson's going to stay or if he's going to go, because I certainly don't know. It seems like that there are some rumors that are flowing out there in both directions of him staying and him going. But right now, no one knows the overall status of what's going to happen with Frank. And you closed in the biggest area that you needed to close in the city of New Orleans. Now, we can talk about some of these other players, and we will. But I want to focus on what happened today with some of your top unit guys. Trenton Henderson was always going to commit tomorrow. We will talk about that. But you also got Haven Finney, the corner out of California, which brought a lot of people's attention up because he had stated that he was not going to sign until he had more clarity of what was happening with Corey Raymond. Did all of these signings give clarity to them? Does it mean that Frank Wilson and Corey Raymond are staying? It very well could. It very well may not. That part I don't know. But today and going into the morning, it seemed as if that Haven Finney wasn't coming here. I don't think any coach needs to be retained outside of Corey Raymond and Blake Baker. I've made that very vocal. I don't think that anybody on the offensive staff, it is imperative for them to stay. They built the offense that is really, 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 really bad. It's really bad. They've been a massive hand in all of it. But I think Corey's done a really freaking good job at corner, and I think you need to keep that core nucleus. We've talked about that. Well, he brings in one of his guys. You know, it seems like that Corey in the NIL era, it's been a little bit more different for him. We always know that he wants long, rangy corners that can play and run. It seems like he's going after one guy per class, like DJ Pickett, that he's really focusing on, and this one being Haven Finney. You got a really good core nucleus. I don't know what is going to happen with Corey Raymond. I'm not, like I've said from the beginning, I don't know, or I'm not going to get mad if Corey Raymond stays or goes. I would really like for him to stay. And I think, quite frankly, from a position coach situation, he's probably the only one that I would not like if he didn't stay. And I look at that and say, should we read any tea leaves into that? I don't know. I have asked, and I don't think anybody knows. You know, I think about, by the way, what some of this old staff should have done, maybe what Ed Orgeron did when he was at USC. Remember when Pete Carroll took over? You know, I advised somebody of this today. I advised somebody of, you remember how Ed Orgeron was stayed on at USC staff, how Pete Carroll kept him because he didn't know if he was going to get fired or not, and he still was out there recruiting. And Pete Carroll said, "Dude, I could fire you right now." He goes, "Yeah, but you hadn't, and I'm out here recruiting." Is that what Corey's doing to land Haven Finney? I don't know. I don't know. Did Haven Finney just reclassify and he didn't really have anywhere to go? Or he just really loves LSU and wants to be here? I don't know. I don't know. Here's what I do know. It's a massive day to get those dudes. You locked in on a corner, you got them. You locked in on a defensive tackle, you got them. You locked in on a safety from inside your state, you got them. Even when you had to fire a coach, all hell broke loose. Frank Wilson may or may not be retained. Corey Raymond may or may not be retained, and you still landed them. You know, when people say LSU recruits itself, I point at that. It's like a light bulb goes off in your brain. When people say that LSU recruits itself, that's what we talk about. Because if they do or they don't have an idea about what's all going on, well, it recruits itself. Because look how high of a level. Look at everything that's going on today and say, yeah, things got really bad. Things got very bad last night. Today, they turned out to be pretty freaking good. And we'll see if Richard Anderson, quote unquote, it gets announced they signed. I'm sure at some point Lane Kiffin will have some kind of press conference about it. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I think getting those three is a massive deal. Look, you went out and flipped Corey Barber. It's clear that they really liked him and they really wanted him at Ole Miss. I don't mind it. You held on to Jabari Mack. I think Jabari Mack's a really good player. A really, really, really good player. Really good wide receiver. You went out and got J.C. Anderson. I don't hate your wide receiver room. I don't hate getting Jabari Mack. I don't hate getting Corey Barber. I don't that you went and got your tight end, one of the top tight ends in the country out of Illinois, and you landed him. I do think that you might overall, whether it be high school or portal, you're going to have to go get some receivers. I do think that that room is a little bit interesting. I think George McDonald's got a lot to work with. I think Phillip Wright is a good receiver. I do think Manchild is a good receiver. Destin Hill returns. What can he do? Aaron Anderson, for me, I do think that you got a lot of talent that is still in that room. I don't think that there's any bigger benefactor. None. There's not one. There's not a bigger benefactor than Trades Green and Aaron Anderson, really. Can Aaron get healthy? Does he go to the draft? I think Aaron Anderson should stay. Like all of these wide receivers can say. I think that what I've seen from Manchild, what I've seen from Phillip Wright, those two young freshmen, and Aaron Anderson and Trades Green, there's a lot that you have to work with here. There's a lot that you have to work with. Jabari Mack and others. I think there's a lot that you have to work with here. Now, Kylan Billiard hit the portal. I just don't think Kylan could play here. He dropped the ball way too much. But Jelani Watkins is out. You got a young core nucleus. What does LSU do in the portal? And I don't think that you're done at wide receiver. To add into that, I think LSU is hot on the trail for Chase Matthews. I think they're hot on the trail for a couple of others. And guys, they're flipping some money out there. I don't know if Lane Kiffin can land in 72 hours of being here. I just don't. But there is a chance that you can go out there and get a 5-star wide receiver if you're able to flip a Chase Matthews. What happens with Chris Henry Jr.? Does LSU get in that mix now that he didn't commit to Ohio State today? I know USC has been trending a little bit there. Can LSU get in that mix? Can they? Guys, for that, I don't know at all. We're going to have to see how that one all plays out. But it also gets to me to a point where you look at that. Calvin Russell didn't sign today out of Miami. Can you get involved in any one of those and go and get them? That is my question. And I think you're going to be really fine there. I don't think LSU is done. Look, you're going to have to hold on for Bryson Cooley, but you did get Bryson Martinez. He signed with LSU out of East Ascension. You got to get a little bit better along your offensive line class. I think Martinez is a really good player. I think Cooley's a really good player. You got to lock down on Cooley. Alabama's hot on the trail. Let's see if you can hold on to him there. So let's talk about Lamar Brown and Deuce Gerald's. Lamar Brown announced today that he is not going to sign and that he's going to wait and see what happens with the staff. I do like where things are right now with Lamar Brown. Doesn't mean that in a flip of an instant, doesn't mean in a flip of a second that things can't turn very quickly, because things can turn very quickly. Things can turn very, very, very quickly. I think LSU's got to land yet again, and I think that they can. Do they drag this out to February? Do they drag it out to Friday? Lane Kiffin's got to close again. You got to sell the vision. You got to sell the plan. One thing that I will just mention, and I'm not just directing this in Lamar Brown's way, but guys, there is something that needs to be said about what's happened in this coaching carousel that's got a lot of recruits around the country, good, bad, or indifferent, their eyes and antennas up. What's got their antennas up is LSU highly reportedly went out during this coaching carousel, and you had a head coach in Lane Kiffin at the podium the other night saying there was no better NIL package, no other NIL deals that was presented to me better than LSU's. Well, I got to tell you, if my son Ben Ruffino was a high school recruit and a high-level high school recruit in LSU who was coming after my son with the GM reportedly per Football Scoop and Austin Thomas is gone, we're about to renegotiate and make sure that this deal is still in place. I'm not directing that at Lamar Brown. I'm not directing that at any player whatsoever. Okay, just stay away from it. All right. And this is my son, Ben. I'm not directing that at any one individual. What I am directing it at, what I would say is that you can't say that and people not look at you and say, okay, well, where are we at? What are you doing with staff? What are you doing with money? Are we negotiating? Are we agreeing on what we talked about with the old staff? Where are we? I still think things are okay for Lamar Brown at the current moment, but it's also raised the antennas of some of these other guys, especially at receiver, that have not committed yet, like Chase Matthews, like Chris Henry Jr., who, you know, talking to some people that I'm really close to with in that situation, I think Chris Henry would listen. I think Chris Henry Jr. would 1,000% listen. And yes, I am kind of trying to throw LSU a bone there. I would just say if George McDonald wanted a 5-star bona fide receiver, he would call Chris Henry, he would call Chase Matthews, which I'm sure that he is, and he would call Calvin Russell. Because I got calls today from 3 people that I had no business getting calls from. We already kind of knew about Chase Matthews. But I get a call from a good buddy around the Chris Henry situation, say, hey, man, you know, if LSU wants to get in the game, we will now talk about it, that Brian Hartline's moving to South Florida. We will see. We will see. You got to land Lamar Brown. You got to keep closing here. You have a chance. But you can't go out there saying some of the level of things that you said. I said Chase Brown. I meant Chase Matthews. If I said Chase Brown, Chase Matthews. You can't go out there and say some of the things that you're saying without there being some ramifications. And I say ramifications, but consequences, whether they're good or bad. Look, you fired a coach in Brian Kelly. You fired him for $54 million, and you're likely firing most of his staff. And you still had a top 10 class. You still had a top 10 class. That's pretty freaking good in my opinion. That's really freaking good in my opinion. I do think that you're going to add some more here that maybe that aren't on the list of things and people and players that we talked about. You don't have a quarterback in this class. Does LSU take care of that? You don't have a running back in this class. You're going to have to go in the portal for a lot of them. At least 2. You need 2 running backs in the portal. I think Harlan Berry's a really good player. I think that he should – I know that Frank is his guy. There's no reason whatsoever that Harlan Berry should go in the portal. Just because Frank is not here, the offense is taking the biggest leap that it could literally take. My biggest thing for all of the current players on LSU's current roster right now, I know that the coaches that were there, that I'm sure you have a lot of respect for, you admire them, you love them. I get all of that. You can't leave. Anybody advising you to leave, if you're an offensive player at LSU, they are not steering you in the right direction. I'm looking at you because I know that's what's happening. There are people from all over the place, some close to you, some not so close to you, telling you, well, man, maybe you should hit the portal. Don't do it. Don't do it. Do you understand the man that you just hired? Do you understand the man that is coming here? Don't do it. Don't do it. All right. So a really good class. I do think that Dylan Purter, we'll see what happens there. But you got to hang on to Trenton Henderson. You got to close Lamar Brown and Deuce Gerald's. You gotta close. You got to keep this class intact, and well, then you'll go from there. All right. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, we will talk about some staff stuff. Eric Wolford is going to be joining Lane Kiffin's staff, apparently per Football Scoop. We'll talk about Blake Baker, and we'll get to your Super Chats, thoughts, questions, concerns. Stay with us. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotions. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by.
We're back.
I don't know if y'all can see that number, but guys, do you know how many times in the last 45 or 55 minutes that I've been sent something about Big Rich Anderson? 17 DMs. Oh man, relax. The kid said he was signing. Trust and take him at his word. If it gets to a point where he doesn't, we'll go from there. Just hang tight, man. All right, so a lot of people want to know what's going on with Blake Baker. So today it was reported that Blake Baker also interviewed with the Memphis Tigers. Ryan Silverfield's on his way to Arkansas. And Blake Baker is a very hot commodity, very big name in these coaching circles. Want to say something very quick about Blake Baker. I see a lot of Ole Miss people saying that he just doesn't like Lane Kiffin because he's interviewing for head coaching jobs. Apparently, he doesn't like Lane Kiffin. Are you stupid? Are you that dumb? Look, this is making this LSU Ole Miss rivalry so bitter. So bitter. Are you that dumb? Did you see what happened around the country with G5 coaches that were having success and where they went? The normal path is people want to see you have success as a head coach at one of these big SEC jobs or Big Ten jobs before they hire you. Newsflash. But Blake Baker interviewed with Memphis today. Memphis worries me more than Tulane. Well, Blake, it's his alma mater. You're right. It is. I don't know if a lot of you follow the sport at a massive rate outside of just LSU full time. FedEx donated over $50 million to Memphis. $50 million. Who do you think you kidnapped? Chelsea Clinton? $50 million, and they're constantly dumping money into Memphis University or the University of Memphis, whichever one it is. If Blake Baker were wise and they have more money that they will spend at Memphis than Tulane at the current moment, Memphis would worry me. Tulane, Memphis, where does he go? Does he go there? to Tulane? Does he go to Memphis? Gus, I don't know. For him, I can only say this so much. I do hope for Blake that he gets a head coaching job. I do. I really, really, really do. I think that he is a bona fide superstar. I think he's going to do a lot of really great things. I think Blake is on a fast track that if he goes to a G5 school, he's going to be one of the hottest names in the country to be a head coach in the SEC somewhere. But let me tell you what I'm hearing. What I am hearing at the current moment is that LSU is fighting for their lives to keep him. I see, and I know that there's a lot of people talking that Blake Baker doesn't want to be here. Then why is LSU and why is Blake Baker constantly in conversations in reference to him staying on as the DC? We just got done talking about recruiting and signing day and stuff that happened with guys like Big Rich Anderson. And I know that a lot of you have seen this, but last night when Richard Anderson and Lane Kiffin met, Blake Baker was also massively involved in that with them. Massively involved. It tells me a couple of things in reference to Blake Baker. Number one, he hasn't completely taken the Tulane job yet, because if he had, he wouldn't be interviewing with Memphis. And I know that Tulane wanted to interview other candidates, and it might spurn them and him going to Memphis instead of Tulane. Tulane and Memphis both have kind of wanted some guys with some head coaching experience. Billy Napier's name continues to come up at Tulane. I don't know if he's going to take that job. I don't know where any one of them are going. I'm not going to act like I know. I know the only thing is that Blake Baker is a big candidate for both of them. But LSU's fighting like hell. I don't think that's the situation that's going on with Blake Baker and Lane Kiffin. As we keep this update, guys, I know that you're going to have to be patient until probably sometime this week, Friday. There are some other things that we're going to have to pay attention to. I don't know if there's massive moves made before Friday, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Because if Blake Baker stays, I'm sure he wants to keep Corey Raymond. And I've heard as much. That he would like to keep Corey Raymond for how good they've played. Who knows? Who knows? The reason that I think, too, that we are not seeing more action on the defense, actually, I'm not even going to say why I think. The reason that you're not seeing a lot more action on the defensive side of the football in reference to staff hires, even though a lot of you are being completely freaked out about all of this, is mainly due to the fact that LSU doesn't know if Blake Baker's going to stay or not. And when you go hire DC, what if he wants to bring some guys? Like exactly like Blake Baker did with Kevin Peoples. You must allow coaches to do what they need to do and have patience. I don't know where Blake's going either way. I know a lot of people at Tulane said he's been offering the job. I don't buy that right now because they're still interviewing candidates. If you've offered a guy a job and you're offering and you're interviewing other candidates, why would you do that if you think Blake Baker's your guy? Look what that did to Florida. I think Florida was the biggest smokescreen in all of this, if we're being blunt. But it is what it is there. I really do believe that Blake Baker's a bona fide superstar, man. I really, 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 really do. I want him to stay at LSU as long as he can. He took a 108 ranked unit and made him in the top 25 and top 15 in scoring. Yeah, I want him to stay. You have a lot of options if he goes. What people in Louisiana and LSU fans do a lot. You know, y'all do this a lot. You over panic. You panic. Blake Baker might leave, man. This is going to suck. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? Because there's a lot of really good defensive coordinators out there. There's a lot of really good defensive minds out there. Lane has hired some really good defensive coordinators in his time. Go figure. One thing that I have heard is that Lane is not objecting to what, or where he would object to going to the NFL route for DC. Who knows if he gets there? I mean, but that is the thing coming out of the football ops building from things that I hear. Let's see if you keep Blake Baker, because you very well could. You very well could. My phone is blowing up, and someone just sent me something on Discord. That's normally not good. Or maybe it is very good. Maybe it is very good. I don't know. Please be good. Okay, nothing looks like it nothing looks like it massively went off. Okay. Thank God we didn't have breaking news. All right. Last but not least, before we move on here, there's a report about Football Scoop that Eric Wolford, the former offensive line coach at Alabama under Nick Saban, and the offensive line coach at Kentucky, is accepting some form of staff role on LSU staff. Listen, I don't know what he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be your offensive line coach, but Eric Wolford spent the last 9 seasons in the SEC, multiple ones at Alabama, and he's been at Kentucky. At Alabama, they average right at 200 yards rushing per game. I would assume for the offensive line that if Eric Wolford is your offensive line coach, he would have, like Lane would have asked Nick Saban what he thought about him. And I just got to tell you the truth. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, man, I don't know about him. I don't know about him. They weren't great at Kentucky. Dog. Brother. Do what? They're not putting any money in at Kentucky. Everyone talks about, was last year Bama, Jalen Milroe took a lot of sacks. Yeah, well, the year before that, when they had a really good, or he developed or had a good offensive line, Bryce Young barely got touched. They were breaking in a whole new offensive line, and they won the SEC. With Jalen Milroe, by the way, who hasn't been the best processor of making decisions and accurate ones. So let's see what that status is. I know the Garrison guy, the offensive line coach at Ole Miss, I'm sure that Lane would want him. I'm sure that he would want Kevin Smith as his running backs coach. We're just going to have to wait and see. I think that anybody that can coach offensive line for Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin, I'm just going to lean into it and trust it. Here's the real truth. You can't get much worse. You can't get much worse. Brad Davis did a horrible job. I like Brad. He's a really good guy. He's a Louisiana guy. He's a Baton Rouge guy. His offensive line the last 2 years has been god-awful. They've been god-awful, and it's why he's not going to be retained. God-awful. Recruited well from a star development, but, guys, you got to go along the offensive line and dominate. Look, Eric Wolford's been in this game a long time. Offensive line's a position that I've played. He is a tactician through and through. Through and through, he's a tactician. He's been a tactician. But he started 2 true starters on the left side of his offensive line at Alabama, and one of them was a true freshman who had to lose a lot of weight to be able to play in the SEC. Y'all going to keep hearing me say this. I'm not going to worry about Lane Kiffin and his staff hires. I'm just not going to do it. I don't think you need to either. All right. Let's get to this. Let me get to the super chats here. Yeah, we need to start paying a little bit more attention to LSU basketball, but we just have had so much going on with football lately. Did they lose to Boston College? They're down 59-61. Not good, man. Not good at all. Tim became a member on the YouTube channel along with Adam, along with Brad and Brandon Morris. Thank you all for becoming members on the YouTube channel. We will get content out to you tomorrow. We'll get some content out to you tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you all for becoming members, and we'll get that content out for you. And I promise this time we'll make sure it's members-only content. Thomas, with a $5 super chat, says, does LSU have any shot with Chris Henry Jr.? I saw on X they mentioned an SEC team in the mix. They will. They will. I've been told that Chris would be open to listening to a lot of people. So I have a pretty good connection on that one. Let's see what happens. Yep, let's see what happens. Let's see if the junior is actually going to listen to people. I don't know. Heather Bro with a $2 super chat says, Josh here. Okay, so it's not Heather. Keep up the great work. AYS is the best. Yes, I appreciate that. You know what was interesting today? A lot of you sent me your YouTube. I guess YouTube is doing this like what you listen to the most, and Spotify's doing it as well. A lot of you sent us that AYS was your number one stop. A lot of you are top 3. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. If you go to YouTube and we're in the top 5, send it to us. And I need you to do me a favor. Send it. If it's on YouTube, send the link to all people that you know that's not subscribed. Tell them to hit the subscribe button. And all of you that are in the chat right now, hit that subscribe button, because 60% of you that are watching are not hitting that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button down below. It's free. And all we do is just talk about LSU and some other things. Bomb Tech with a $2 super chat says, who is the starting quarterback for LSU next year? He's probably not on your roster. Yep, probably not on your roster unless they see Michael Van Buren as a player that they can play with, but he's probably not on your roster right now. Otis with a $5 super chat says, his former players are playing a dirty game. Hashtag AYS rules. His former players are playing a dirty game. Thank you for the AYS rules. Are you talking about Lane's players? Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see if there's any players that leave Ole Miss and come to Baton Rouge. I'm very interested to see if that happens, because if that does happen, well, you know, maybe Lane wasn't lying after all. I want Winnie the wide receiver. Semper gifted 5 AYS sports memberships. Thank you so much, Semper. I know you've been gifting a lot of people. Thank you. Sorry I'm not as cute tonight, but thank you for gifting 5 people in the chat right now memberships. That's what makes you awesome, Semper. But yeah, we'll get some content out to you tomorrow. Terps with a $2 super chat says, they trying to ruin Lane's reputation. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, they're trying to ruin his reputation. Again, I'll just keep saying this. When are we going to talk about, why aren't any of you talking about on the field? Why is it that LSU gets to hire a coach and you're worried about one thing only and don't want to talk about the whole collective thing? Hey, man, you said he couldn't recruit. Well, he locked down Rich Anderson. Again, I get everything that y'all are saying. Maybe he, when's the good sign? I get all that. However, they don't talk that he led Ole Miss into their best season ever. And then they let Charlie Weiss coach and not him. Guys, come on. They're mad at him that he left. People are not wanting to try to see reason. They're trying not to see reason. That's fine. Don't see reason. Verdon with a $5 super chat says, given how bad Ole Miss has bashed him and how Lane is, so you think he pulls a move from Remember the Titans and leave no doubt if they play next year? But maybe. Very well could. Very, very well could. I wouldn't blame him after all he's done for them. And I get it. They're hurt. And we'd be hurt too. Men 63 Green with a $5 super chat says, hearing that Lamar Brown will sign either tomorrow or Friday during prep rally. Regardless, everyone show Blake some love and hit that like and share. That is right. Hit that like and share. Look, and if he does and you land him, you get Trenton Henderson, you flip Duckworth, you are able to get a 5-star wide receiver commit like Chase Matthews or Henry or Calvin Russell. If you do the unthinkable, Then you got a 5-star in Richard Anderson. You flipped a quarterback that you didn't have in the class, and you get Lamar Brown, and you get a 5-star wide receiver. Holy shit. After everything that's gone on. Yeah, bro. Miss me with that. Ole Miss is in the top 25, brother. They're in the 20s. Got to develop it. Semper with a $2 super chat says, we going to sing Suck That Tiger Glasscock now. Let me just say, if Billy Glasscock does some really good things, we can go, hey-oh. Suck that Tiger Glasscock. Yeah, we could. Get some good players in here. We'll definitely make a chant after him. We'll make chants after everything else. Semper also sends a $5 super chat. Says Blake lives so far in the sticks, he doesn't get Good Morning America till 3 in the afternoon and wondering why his internet sucks. I don't live in the sticks like that. Look, and we're trying to get some big plans for the 2026 year. Maybe we move outside of the studio and go into a in-town one, quote unquote. So yeah. But we just got really popped by Ida, man. We really did. And they're constantly working on everything. You know, like I talked to some guys, they're laying fiber wire down. They try to do everything with duct tape and goodwill. And I mean, it's been unfortunate in a way that we got hit that hard, but guys, the Hammond area, Livingston Parish area, St. Tammany area got absolutely popped by Ida. It got popped. Michael Holden with a $20 super chat says, where's Sam Petito in all of this? And I'm assuming he is staying on. I would assume right now that he's staying on, yes, unless something happens. You never know with Lane Kiffin. But he should. And he's been on. He was one of the high guys in recruiting for Saban's staff, I would assume. I'll leave this here. He hadn't been left in the dark on all of this. He hadn't been left in the dark. And I think that sometimes you don't hear people's name and they want to be kept in the shadows. But probably they shouldn't be. It's not probably not the hero that LSU needs right now. Hayden Spire with a $10 super chat says, do you think if Blake Baker moves on, Ron Roberts would be a good option at DC? I don't think he would be a bad option. I wonder if he goes to Ole Miss with Pete Golding, because Pete was his guy at Delta State. He got fired, and there's a DC role that is open at Ole Miss, and I think that he'd probably go to Ole Miss. I do. But he gave Lane a lot of problems. That's for damn sure. Linder with a $5 super chat says Pook is the first recruit to sign with LSU as a Franklin Parish / Winsboro graduate since Booger McFarland. Yeah, I saw that Booger McFarland said something today about it. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Jacob with a $2 super chat says Lamar deleted all LSU content on his Instagram. Did he? Lamar Brown Instagram. Let's see. It's really quick to find out. Yeah, he had 3 photos. I didn't know what he had before. Yeah, I don't know what he had before. Did he only have 3 photos? I don't know. I don't follow the kid's Instagram. Yeah, I don't. Maybe it means something. Who knows? Penn Jones with a $5 super chat says, I'm going all tapped fist to the game in Oxford next year, prepared to have extra fun with the Ole Miss idiots. You should. Especially if you win it. Boy, that's going to be electric. So is Tennessee. Walking, talking, Stephen Hawking with a $5 super chat says, so the people who understand that LSU is a better job than Ole Miss also don't understand that head coach is a promotion from DC. Go figure. Don't understand that job than Ole Miss. Also, don't understand that head coach is a promotion from DC. Go figure. Yeah, I didn't see any of that, but yes, it's clearly a promotion. If they're that dumb, then I mean they've been dumb in this whole process, so it wouldn't surprise me. Vernon with a $5 super chat says, any thoughts or heard anything on Bryce Underwood not happy to Michigan and might be waiting to transfer? I have not. Royce Pierce with a $20 super chat just says tiger emojis. Royce is a great listener. He constantly on Rufino and Joe show here in AYS. Thank you so much, Royce. Greatly appreciate it, buddy. Greatly appreciate it. Chris Desatel, along with Joseph Riley, both became members on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. We'll get that content out to you tomorrow, and I promise this time we will hit the members only button. We're trying, we're getting some people, hiring some people around here, and things are going to happen, but it's okay. But if you saw the video from a couple of days ago when shit was like really in detail and everybody started freaking out on me, oh my God, Blake's saying this. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then here's the funny thing. Everybody was telling me I was wrong when the video came out. Then it got reported and they were like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't that wrong. Fucking stupid. That shit just, it blows my mind that people in the chat are saying one thing and then they come back an hour later when somebody else reports and they go, oh, I guess it was true. No shit. No shit. Are we going to get things wrong? Guys, are people in media going to get things wrong? For 1,000%. Like, guys, let me tell you what all of you do. What all of you do when you get any level of info, you hit somebody up in the DMs. Hey, man, I'm hearing this. Hey, man, I'm hearing that. Hey, man, I'm hearing this. And it's your job in our position to figure out if it's true. Guys, there's a lot of times that people tell you shit just to throw shit out there so it gets out there for whatever purpose necessary. And it's your job to run that shit down or be quiet. But listen to me. If you sat in this chair and you saw some of the reports that came out around some people in this media corps, you would be like, there's no way they're talking to people. There's no way. Like, that's why I think Wilson Alexander does an elite job. Shea Dixon, Mike Scarborough. Like, those dudes do elite jobs for a reason. How many times are you going to miss on something before we like, oh, man, is this for real? I have no idea. We're going to call you AR. AR with a $2 super chat says, can't lie, Brown tone on ESPN didn't sound promising. Relax. Just relax. Joseph Russell with a $5 super chat says, hot take of the week, College Game Day should have Lane on as a guest picker. Huge PR move. That would be hilarious. That would freaking be hilarious. Here's what I'd say to Lane Kiffin. You know, Lane, there's a lot of people out there in the national media trashing you right now. They're saying all kinds of stuff in reference to you, in reference to that you haven't changed as a person, that you made a horrible decision, that you shouldn't have done what you did, that you shouldn't be at LSU, that you quit on a team. You know all the things that they're saying about you. So when it's time, when you start winning, and the Pat McAfees of the world, the Cole Kublicks of the world, and all these other people that are massive national media guys ask you to come on, you better say no. Because it's the people around here, myself, Mike Scarborough, Buddy Sanji with Mike, I'm sure they had a show tonight, Shea Dixon, all of these dudes, Jacob Hester, Matt Flynn, all of these dudes are sticking up for you right now. While all the national media guys are completely trashing you. You don't have to go on Pat McAfee to be a brand. Lane Kiffin goes on anybody's show, that shit blows up. You know it, and I know it. I'm not saying that because like I want him to come on here. I'm just saying that they're trashing you right now, absolutely obliterating you in the media. And I hope that when we start winning, that he doesn't forget that shit. And I think he knowing just from afar, seeing Lane's personality, I don't think that he will. They're trashing you, brother. and it's people that it's in the local media that are getting in the comments, that are taking a lot of heat because of it too. I hope he remembers it. Jacob says he deleted his commitment post. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that means, man. I really, really don't know what that means. All right. John sent a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. RGS with a $5 super chat says, how much of our current offensive line struggles are fixable with new coaching scheme versus needing portal and blood? Well, you got some good pieces. Like you got Solomon Thomas. Does he leave? You got Carius Kern. Does he leave? I mean, I don't know. If those guys stay, not a lot. You need some tackles. I mean, if Tyree Adams is going to stay, I think Tyree's done a good job. I don't think it's completely unfixable. You're going to have to go in the portal for offensive linemen. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'll tell you this. I'm going to leave the show with this. I don't think that offensive line was a very connective unit this year. And I think that Brad Davis felt the pressure and he turned on people. That's what I believe. See you tomorrow. Peace.